What's up, champions, Porterhouse and Pookies? Good to see you guys jumping in. Thanks a lot for that. I was struggling to get an audience going here. I guess I'm really not the fundamentals guy, am I? Right? So I thought to myself earlier in the meeting, right, when we were going over the earnings calendar, and nobody seemed to be interested. But I'm very interested. Maybe I'm the only one who's interested in Visa. I'm here, but I'm also not, you say, Pookies? Yes, you're sick, man. Get a rest up. So again, very little interest, it seemed, at least among the analysts for Visa, also among the people, right? I was 5 minutes in here and nobody was really popping up, but Visa is a chart, guys, that if we just look at that from a bigger perspective, I mean, look at the quarterly candlesticks here. This has quite literally been up only. So I will look at the earnings, but first and foremost, I'll tell you where I think this is going, right? So we're breaking an all-time high for Visa. We've broken an all-time high on Nvidia. We've broken an all-time high on multiple different stocks, and then they typically end up going higher, right? And where do they tend to go to? To the 1272 extension of that previous last swing that we had. So my idea for Visa is that we're probably on our way to 279.29 as our magnet, regardless of the immediate short-term impact here of the earnings. And again, we can go over that. Bear with me because I am again not the fundamentals expert at all, but I might give us an edge here in the idea that we're probably looking at 279.29. If that breaks, we go higher. This is very typical for new all-time high making. There is absolutely no way that I would be looking at a short here on Visa, right? Especially because it has not hit a high time frame level of interest there at the 1272, 1414. Let's see if I'm audible on StreamYard. And I see you're jumping in here as well, Poogies. I mean, I know you're sick, man, so I'll look to cover us here. So we'll go to the lower time frames, but what did you say, Mr. Happy? Clearly with a sad face, he hates us. Oh no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I love you guys. So I just wanted to go to the higher time frames first to tell you guys where I think this is heading. And I don't know where the immediate next 5-minute candle is going to go. I might give some educated guesses here. But this was actually the first thing that I was looking at, right? So I'll go over the price action first, and then we can see if they actually did well or not well on their earnings. So this is in the process of making all-time highs, so you can expect volatility. And that's exactly what I was expecting earlier in the weekend, why I'm interested to come to this chart, especially now, right after hours, market just closed, and we're making new, well, all-time highs, right? Again, this has never traded this high. So if you go to this on a 5-minute time frame, hey Pookies, what's up, man? I can hear your voice somewhere in the Discord. Oh, you can see a screen on the Discord. I'm so sorry for that. Thanks for reminding. Bro, you sound sick, to be honest, man. Get some rest. So just for the people in the Discord, again on StreamYard, it was probably on YouTube, it was probably visible, but this is what I'm looking at for Visa, right? So previous swing high, July 2021, also all-time high, retracement all the way to the summer of 2022, and then just a violent break of the previous all-time high. So again, these FIBs, these upside projections, they work very, very well, and they give you a huge edge in context of price discovery. So 279.29 is what I'm looking at. And on lower time frames, we can then take a look at how we can get there, right? It's not something that I immediately want to maybe necessarily press a button on, but even just going into tomorrow, again, my idea here, and it's also for the lower time frame traders, maybe you're tuning into this and you're thinking, where is a good area to take profit on a long, for example, or what is the next area of interest? To me, it's that 279. So I was just looking at this price action first and foremost before going over earnings or whatever, right? So Monday, we created a high. And it's just a couple of days ago, beginning of the week, was actually one of the first candlesticks of the week in the morning, right? New York time, 9:15, they made a high at 273.58. And then later on, right, on Thursday, we got above that high and got back below. And so we're still respecting that. So it looks to me like everybody who was short on this with stops above these current highs just got stopped out. And we're looking at some earnings volatility here. Again, I would completely not be interested in shorting this, even if it comes back down and retraces lower, because again, the bigger picture context here is breaking into all-time highs. So I would be focused long, just from a perspective of giving this a day trade also tomorrow. I think that high that we've put in the beginning of the week, again, regardless of earnings, right, is going to be the key. So that is 273.6. That is what we got to get back above. So it looks like we're getting some huge volatility. Let's see where this can potentially come back to. Let's zoom out for a minute on the 30-minute. I mean, from that high, we've got sold off down to this low. So I would imagine that if we get sold off here a little bit, this is going to be our first magnet to the downside. But once again, I'm definitely not looking to pull any triggers, and especially on short positions. So would like to get a long in from lower. Let's see how it would react if it comes down to 69.93. And again, if this can get above and solidify, at least some candle closes, right? So what do we have now? All kinds of wicks there. So really, we've had no candle opens and closes. So we're getting smashed back down very quickly. But if that is not going to be the case anymore, if we can essentially get above this and on the retest of that previous Monday high, that is where you could look to take, for example, a long position. But so I would wait for the breakout, and then essentially you want to fall back to all these highs and then not turn it into resistance anymore, but to actually find support on that. So and really where that goes to, if you're not aware of the high time frame and exactly where you're likely to find resistance, and you have a hard time planning out your trades. So quite literally something like this, where you give it some room, because again, this can come down. Simple 2-to-1 after breaking above here, you take an entry. You could just work with a limit order, or you could wait for the reaction and see that indeed you're printing a green candlestick from there, and then get involved in it, and then target up to 279. So that's first order of business what I wanted to share with you guys here for Visa. So this would be my idea, and again, I can be patient with this. People that are just anxious to press a button right now, it's most likely because they're not knowing exactly what they're looking for, and so we can take advantage of that. But let's take a look at what that says here. And again, it's actually my very first time, at least with some public, going over earnings. So bear with me, guys, if you already know me here in the Discord. I'm for sure not your fundamentals but I mean, a company like Visa, it's something that is making all-time highs. It's something that a lot of people use, and I would imagine that there's no real stopping this, right? So let's take a look at what they've got going here. Is this where we look, guys? What do you say, Mr. Happy? Inverted head and shoulders in the making. Well, so I don't trade patterns. I don't really look at patterns, because so often you see a head and shoulders form, and retail sees that pattern and trades that pattern, but actually it's a trap, and then you end up being on the wrong side of the market. Actually, these patterns, they have a very bad hit rate. If you would go back and really, also they're up for interpretation, right? I can see a head and shoulders, or you can see it, but hard levels are not up for interpretation. Like that high there on Monday, that is an important level regardless, right? That's a horizontal level that has nothing to do with a figure. That is like this market is not, it's not that this chart is trying to paint you pictures of head and shoulders and falling wedges, right? That is, I know some people trade that and do that successfully, but that's not how I look at a chart. Let's see what they've got going. 2023. So what are we looking at here? Let's see if I can find a link here on the internet for a second for us, guys. Or Pookies, maybe if you have an idea where to look here on TradingView. I know that you're also TradingView savvy. So 25th, their earnings call is later on, I see, I guess. Really, I just as a trader, from a trader's perspective, I'm way less interested, but in their earnings. But I would like to get us a link here to see if they beat expectations or not, right? Just the fact that it's a red candle, that doesn't tell me that they haven't beat expectations. Again, expect a lot of volatility, and I would be long-minded on this. Let's see. I know if Bull was here, he would be able to do that. So there's TrendSpider says Visa earnings report for Q1 just dropped. Earnings per share 241 versus 234 estimate. So it's not rocket science, I guess, to understand that it is a positive. And sales 8.6 billion versus 8.54 estimate. So I guess both on their earnings per share and on their sales, they've outperformed. like quite a bit actually, right? You think 8.6 billion sales, and estimate is 8.54. You think, oh, that's just 0.0, that's just 0.06, but that's 0.06 billion. So that's a good amount of money. Again, it's not because they have now apparently beaten earnings that, well, that changes my vision at all, right? So let's see what level. It's already kind of obvious, right? What level they're tapping. So you have the high, sells off to the low. That's the level 269.93. Was really specific with it, right? So where do we find at least a little bit of a reaction? Do we get that reaction there because of their earnings per share, or do we get that reaction there because this market works based on liquidity and there was liquidity below that low? So again, we're in a range, tight range, a $4 range. I would look for this range to be exited to the upside to go higher. Now, if this thing ends up not going higher, right, and it sells off, I would see that as a good opportunity to get on board of essentially a better long position, right? So that is my idea. If I want to be bullish on something, the fact that it comes down won't change my general bias, because if you look at it from the perspective of the bull that longs from lower, right? If my idea is still that we're going to 1.27, that's 1.272, right? From lower, I'll get a way better risk reward in. I don't even need the price to go that high to essentially get a winning trade. So we can let the dust settle here again. I'm not a fan of just getting caught up in volatility. Could have just placed a buy order there, a limit order, and see what it does. But again, that is risky, because if it just does not hold that, it's going to retrace back to all these wicks here. So all these wicks, that's where long positions right now, they have stops. And essentially what I'm looking to do is to see if they can get stopped out, and then we take their position from them. Let's see, you get a notification here. So I guess this is telling us the same thing, right? Visa, 1Q EPS 239, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Actually, the tweet was way clearer. Thanks for that. Thanks for that a lot, Cookies. Focus, you say Intel getting slammed on guidance. So I guess they're giving some negative talk, some negative prospects for the immediate short term, and people are getting worried. Maybe what we can do, right? I hope this Visa ID is clear to you guys. How I would mark out my position before I take anything, and let's maybe go on a double chart. And if what is it? Intel is also getting their earnings right now. We can absolutely take a look at that as well. So I guess the ticker for that is INTC. If so this is interesting, right? This is retracing back down. Again, regardless of earnings, I'm looking to potentially be a buyer on that. Let's first and foremost, I want to get all these dots off my trading view. Let's first and foremost see it. Like the first thing that I've done here with Visa is showed you guys a quarterly time frame of that particular equity, which paints a very nice picture of eventually up only. And I see that Intel is close, right? It's not up only. We're now going sideways for, well, since that top in 2000. So that's for a few decades. Let's see, like recently, that's bullish. Let's go to the weekly. Again, regardless of earnings, I want to first see where I think this potentially could come down to. And so if I can be as free to give you guys a level of suggestion here, it would be 43.31. That's a good level to potentially look for this thing to come back. So again, before I go to any lower time frames here, I would like to know from a higher time frame perspective where I'm probably drawing to, right? So let's put this as well on extended hours, because obviously we need that. Oh, wow. And I absolutely completely didn't see that. Completely did not see that. So on the weekly time frame, that is not obvious, right? But 43.31, how is that possible, guys? At this previous 15-minute candlestick wick there, how is that possible? Right? That is, if you want to know why that is possible, I'd say come join the premium section. I'll try my best to explain you. So let's see on the 5-minute time frame. What a candle! What a candle! Exactly to 43.31. And again, if you go to the weekly time frame, what is that level? That is the high of this particular candlestick. Again, I can explain more in depth why that's important, but on the lower time frame, people who fulfill their first limit orders, they're in a good position, I would say. How much is that from 43.31? And again, I have not checked this chart, but that is a nice 10% up move if you have a little limit there. And let's see, in INTC, after hours fire, interacting, Visa all-time high. Yeah, that's kind of the story. But I wouldn't. People see a candlestick like that and they run for the hills. But I'd be very interested here, to be honest. I'd be very interested. Let's see as well if we can get any data from our trading view thing here. So again, they have their earnings today. Obviously, the estimate was 0.447 and the estimate revenue was 15.59 billion. Let's see, did they beat that or did they obviously not beat that? Probably, right? Such a nuke. Let's see, is this already updated? I'll have a look on Twitter real quick. I believe that account probably has it, right? What is that? TrendSpider, just bear with me for a second, guys. I'll go to Twitter. And I'll go to TrendSpider. So I'll give them a follow. Looks good. So KLAC, Visa. What else do they have here? TMUS, T-Mobile, INTC. Intel posts a double beat for the quarter, but falls initially in after hours trading. Actually, also a double beat. They have also outperformed the estimates. So this just goes to show that, again, if 17 minutes ago, right? 17 minutes ago, that tweet comes out. So when is that 17 minutes ago? Let's use TradingView to our advantage here. Date range. So we go back 17 minutes. That is right here. So they've nuked before that came out. So they've nuked on guidance, you say. So even though they've beat their expectations, still the story doesn't seem all that short-term positive for INTC. But once again, I believe, in my opinion, right, such a big gap down. Tomorrow you're going to see a huge gap down. At some point, you're probably going to trade back into it. So my idea would be to long from lower, right? So let's see. Intel gives muted outlook even as PC recovery lifts sales. Let's see. Intel gave a blah, blah, blah. Signaling further challenges for its business, blah, 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 blah. Company said sales were 15.4 billion for the period, up from 14 billion a year before. So, I mean, it's not like they're not making money, guys. So a big nuke like that in the bigger picture, I would have to look at this, but I may imagine that they're probably also a dividend payer. Company shares fell 6% in aftermarket trading. Now, I'm not saying this is a huge discount and just go all in, but I'll be looking to build a position on this. I would rather build a position on a share on an equity if it nukes 10% in comparison if it rises 10%. If I think that the long-term outlook is probably going to be fine. Intel's rising sales for the fourth quarter follow blah 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 evidence that buying more. Wow, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction, probably, especially because they still seem to crunch the numbers. But I'm not your fundamentals expert or whatever, so don't take my word for it. But I think this is interesting, right? So we've already actually hit that 43.31 again on the weekly. I had no clue that we've made it there. If we're gonna go lower than that, that is fine. 38.99 is going to be important, and 36.38. So then we can go to the lower time frames again on the 15 minutes, and we have our blue lines here. where essentially, to me, it would make sense to either scale into a position or to wait for any of these levels to really be hit and to see that buyers step in and that we can catch some support from there. Again, it's definitely no bueno if you got caught longing there the top today thinking that, yeah, earnings and higher only. That's definitely but just going over this chart, right? I do want to go to like a 4-hour time frame for a second and look further. I'll keep my blue lines on. That's going to be relevant. And what is also relevant to me is this low here at 45 bucks, because if we're actually not going to close below that, and if we're not going to open below that tomorrow, I think this could potentially be a big opportunity still. So I wouldn't go long here, but I will be interested to do so from lower, and then we can already look to take profit, for example, at that high there, 47.65, and then essentially look to ride it back in the gap with, at least from my perspective in the bigger picture, bullish outlook. And looks like Visa is really, again, there's two very beautiful examples here, guys, of how both companies seem to have beaten expectations, but still we're getting quite a sell-off, right? So Visa essentially took the stops above that Monday's high and then that high from yesterday, and is now going the other direction. This is super interesting to me. Again, I am more than willing to exactly what I told you guys a little bit ago, where I said, well, if it's risky, I'm just not going to put an order there, because if it goes lower, it could go way lower, but I'm interested from lower to long, because then again, the exact idea is that, well, the long position from lower, my idea is still that we run to 279.29 before coming down. So I'm not saying that we can see a further bigger sell-off, but in my mind, we probably have to go higher before we can go significantly lower. Because if you zoom out here to the weekly, again, you're trading above the previous all-time high. To me, that is not where I want to be bearish. I want to look here at some levels based on the weekly time frame where I think we can actually catch some support regardless. So let's see at 266.19 on a 5-minute here, how that is going to react. That is exactly a weekly level that's going to be of importance. Again, I will personally not press any buttons, but if you guys want me, I could open a paper trading account here and I could look to play from this level if it hits. So my idea, again, I'm not looking to be impulsive here. I would like to see them tap at 266.19 to essentially fill the gap, because that's a gap that's left behind. Again, same thing as here, right? If you put an order there, that might work out for a second. So again, that wicks off, but there's no guarantee of follow through. So I really would like to see them tap that and then actually get back above. I am not concerned here if I'm going to be, for example, scalping this. I'm not concerned with catching the bottom here. That is quite literally knife catching. If you're thinking about shorting it, I mean, you're late to the party at that point. But as I said, I'm not interested in shorts. I want to catch the bigger move, which is, in my opinion, going to happen to 279 there. So again, going lower, the general idea would probably be that is a problem. But for me, that would look to be opportunity. Just play it back, because on the weekly time frame, this is still very much fine to me. So let's see now. They're going to tap that 266.19. So 266 again. If you're going long here prematurely, but just because big red candle, right? But let's see how they tap it from that level. So again, don't copy anything that I'm doing, and if you do, I would highly suggest you don't do it with your hard-earned money. Again, there's no need for that. But we can use a paper trading account here, and if this candle is gonna close above that, I'll just I would take an entry there. Yeah, so I'm already a bit late, but that's where I would take it. I'll still set an order there. So what is the closing price here? 266.48. Again, let's see. How do I do that? All right. So just for entertainment and education's sake, I'd look to take an order if it can get back above here. Well, let's actually go lower. Let's fill this. Can we just do market? This is obviously not a real broker, so just trying to figure this out. Looks like it's not able to do that in after hours actually. So anyways, I wouldn't be playing this for a swing or anything, but just a quick move up because they are holding for now at this level. If we go lower, I mean, it's just going to be a matter of going to the weekly time frame again and then marking out levels that also make sense in case that doesn't hold, which would be 262.35 to 261.46. So let's go to the 5 minute, and again, can be happy not to be caught in that. If I were long there, right, I would immediately have a stop loss on that wick. So that was what I was trying to show you. If they get below a level and then close back above, that gives you a long, because not because you have a guarantee that it goes, but because you can then put your stop under the low that's made below your level of interest, which is essentially, right, would be a very minimal risk. At this point, we're just coming lower, so I would imagine that we actually make it to the 262, 261, and that is a huge drop at the moment. But I would still be in a mindset of, okay, fine, the lower this goes, again, the better the long back up is going to be. That is a wild move. It almost looks like an altcoin, like a crypto. Is anybody saying anything at the moment about this? Giving bad guidance or whatever? Still very interested. Probably I'll play it tomorrow for real in the real market hours, because I would imagine that we're probably gonna hold 260s. Let's see. Visa post Q1 EPS blah blah blah. Let's see what comes in on the news flash here. And I have the impression, to be honest, that this news flash is kind of, well, late already, but Visa post blah blah blah. So again, if you just look at this, say you just look at this and you say to yourself, well, that's good. We're just blindly going to go long or do something, and you get immediately punished for that. But again, there's no guarantees, but I would imagine that at some point shorts that are going to be piling in here are also going to get a squeeze back up. So, and then Intel still on the right side here. Looks way calmer, but this initially had a bigger sell-off exactly at the close. So 4 p.m. New York time, that was this candlestick. So exactly this kind of reaction of a candlestick, right? If it goes lower to one of my blue lines and then gets back above and closes above, that to me is fine to take a scalp long with a stop under the low that is made below that blue line. And then essentially going back up 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, you'll be able to squeeze a good amount out of this. Let's see. Intel reports increase in earnings revenue, but shares slide in late trade after Q1 outlook trails street views. So, all right. Looks like both companies in the bigger picture have just performed well. So again, can't really go off only the news. I guess someone is saying things about Visa here. Maybe the CEO is speaking or something. But it's a wild move. But that is great. Like, I look at this and I am honestly, guys, I'm super excited because I just realized how much lower I'm going to be able to build a position from this. Still with the idea that the 1272 all the way up there is the most likely outcome as long as we don't lose this. That's my thesis. So again, the lower we go, the more room there is to go up, the tighter the stop will be, the more times we can attempt this. So at this, let's see where this one. So this would, for example, again, this candlestick would not give me an entry criteria, even though it can go up. It gets below the blue lines here and closes below the first one without closing back above, and didn't reach the second one. But I would imagine, again, from these weekly levels, if we go to the weekly time frame, those are previous weekly lows and weekly highs. So you're likely to find at least some kind of support on that. So if this candlestick were to close above again, that would be fine. But always, again, if you're longing, your stop loss has to be under the low, because this quite literally can just nuke another $5-10 on you. And then we'll be looking at the 252 level again, which is a key. That's the previous all-time high. So I really want to, everybody looks at this the way they want to. But I'm looking at this from the perspective that I've traded this before at lower levels. I very much remember where we come from. And back then, if you would have said that we're trading at 260s, you would have said that is, wow, that is great progress, because back then we were way below, obviously, this previous all-time high. So again, that 1 minute candlestick, I cannot demonstrate it here with the paper trading function, because apparently it does not allow me to do that after hours. But so this 1 minute candle, right, gets below a weekly level and then closes back above. So that's fine. If you're long from here, you can play it back into this gap and then essentially to the blue line above you, which is the weekly level above you. So if we were to draw that out, you can just use a long position tool. The entry would be the 1 minute candle close back above the weekly level after we go below. Stop loss has to be on the low on something like this. Let's see what that blue line gives you. It gives you a 1.5. If you ride it further up, you're probably able to squeeze something like this out of it, right? So I'm, again, not anxious that, oh, this is now the golden opportunity. I mean, probably not, guys. Probably is going to come back down. And everybody who's going to take exactly this position, who is not going to take profit here, is going to get stopped out. And then everybody is going to pile in shorts, gets back above it. And then the second attempt would be something that would be like, all of these levels are very relevant. This is why I'm so interested in this, because that is going to form a context for tomorrow. So I'm going to be taking note of the lows that are formed here, with the expectation that it's bullish, but will probably still, again, people that are exactly taking a position like this, right? Fine, you're in profit at some point. You don't take it. Market says, okay, then we're going to come back, stop you out. All the stops below this low, it's not because I put the theoretical stop there that it would stay there, right? If you're in profit, obviously you take it or you trail it up, but people are not going to do that. So that low there, again, something that you could focus on tomorrow, for example, tomorrow we still have a trading session, is a sweep of that low. And then, for example, a 5 minute close back above, and you long on the 5 minute close back above, stop under the low, target back up. And this is where people get completely confused by the market. First they're long and they don't take profit, get stopped out, and then they probably say, well, now it has to go down, go short, and then it squeezes back up and it goes to where eventually, I hope I will be able to tell you guys that that's the level, regardless of how low we have come here, right? So again, this is kind of one way to approach scalping. Would I be doing that just based on 1 minute levels? Absolutely not, right? Has to come to get liquidity at weekly levels, and you see the reaction. I mean, if you are indeed, and again, all of this hypothetical, theoretical for educational purposes, but if you are long there, at this point, you already wouldn't have your stop anymore at the low. I mean, that's a free position at that point, right? If it comes back and stops you out, that's perfect. That's the cost of playing. But if it just nukes lower, you'll be happy that you stopped out, right? Because it can simply still go lower. It's still on a 1 minute time frame here. It's still bearish. And again, where was that again? If you take your long on the 1 minute close of that 1 minute candle, right? And you put your stop under the low. We set that blue line 266.19. That's literally that weekly level above you. So that gives you a 1.5, something like this, and your scalp is done, right? You get your percent or two out of it, or whatever you want to do. You want to play options. I personally don't. I like to build swing positions on equity more so than that. But yeah, I hope that is helpful with how I'm looking at these things. I would imagine that if we can get back above 266, everybody piling in short here is going to regret it. And if we get back above 269 there, I mean, this whole range from 269 to 274, there is very little resistance in it and very little support. So if we get back above it, that's when people then say, well, bearish retest short, and it just does this. So I would absolutely, again, personally, if you're bearish, right, and if you're a bear, and if you say, for example, I'm going to focus on finding a short position, you can do that. But again, on the stock that is in all-time high territory, I'm personally not going to do that. And a great example of how these weekly levels can be a good guidance on your 1 minute even, right? From a high weekly to all the way to the 1 minute. Let's see, we have 19 more minutes here. Thinking to myself, what can I cover the time with? Maybe we can take a look at something else that had earnings. So we have Visa, INTC. I'm actually going to go to that TrendSpider cheat code and see what else had earnings. I actually have one here on site that did not beat at least one part. TMUS, T-Mobile, moving lower after reporting Q4 EPS miss, but the sales beat. So the EPS is coming in at 1.67, where the estimate was 1.90. So that is a significant difference, right? Let's have a look at EPS now. Just from a fundamental, let's take a look at TMUS, sorry. Just from a fundamental perspective, like Visa or something like that would have my preference, but we can take a look at T-Mobile as well. Big earnings scandal. Let's first create some perspective on this. Actually, also a very bullish chart, right, on the daily time frame. That is also making all-time highs. That is also performing well. So, especially on things like this, right? So you have a stock, it's making an all-time high, and you think to yourself, "Wow, wish I was in it." Stock then continues and dumps 10% on you, and all of a sudden nobody's interested anymore. Like, why? Is it because the earnings per share for the previous quarter weren't as good? I personally would be interested, right? Without the guarantee, I'd be just preparing with weekly levels here of where I think this is going to find a reaction. So let's go to the 5 minute. 157.36. That is the weekly level from here. Let's go to 5 minute. I mean, still pretty bearish in the short term here. Immediately back smash down to it. So I would hold off for this. I mean, if this can give similarly to something like Visa, where all of a sudden you get that earnings present essentially, where again, like a good looking stock in the bigger picture is then giving you a big dip. That is not to say a full portfolio in that and we just let it ride, but just to be interested from lower to go long, and then again, from a scalping swing point perspective, to take your profits where it makes sense. It's also the easiest, right? And obviously for the short side, if you would have but yeah, again, if you would, coulda, shoulda, it would be a gamble, right? If you would say before the market close, let me just get some puts on all of this. Well, that would have worked out, but is that really skill? It's of course very nice that you see green on the screen, but is that really replicable, right? Can you count on that to provide yourself an income to say, I'm going to gamble on puts and everything down, and then everything goes down, and the money that you make on a play like that turns into a very toxic gift the moment you lose it, and then try it again the next time and it goes against you. So the only thing that I'm really trying to do is to find weekly levels and then to find long positions from them. Because yeah, especially with the stock market, I mean, even though we have short-term volatility and downside, right? It does prove time and time off again that, well, the market is designed to go to the top right of your chart, essentially, over time, regardless of dip. So especially coming to the stock market with the perspective of, I want to be a buyer, but not just at any price, something that I'm more comfortable with than, for example, just going to crypto and saying I'm going to be an altcoin investor, right? On things like this, I would feel more safe in the bigger picture, to be honest. Let's see on Discord. Do you guys want me to look at anything else here? Really, I'm trying to, well, if you are looking at my stream here, you could, well, I would suggest that you put these horizontal lines on your chart maybe yourself, and you look at how price reacts there tomorrow or next week, whenever we come there. So another question could be, oh, but how long do these levels stay relevant, right? Well, they stay relevant until they're hit. Can be tomorrow, can be next week, can be next month. So just being aware of 152.84 and 149.6, it's those levels are similar weekly support levels as was 261 to 262.35 here on Visa. So that's a nice little move, but it doesn't really run very far, right? You can squeeze a couple of dollars out of it here. A nice move from here, right? A potential play would be, again, to wait until this comes all the way down and breaks below this low, and not to short that. To wait for a move back above 262.35 and then to give it a long, and essentially trying to play it for the lovers of patterns, right? Your double bottom, even though that's not how I look at things. I don't typically call things a double bottom, but yeah, that's the play in my opinion. And if you then go long here, you can put your stop loss under the new low, and that will be more likely a safer position than the first one here, because everybody here, right, what I was trying to show you on the 1 minute, that is knife catching. And if you don't take your profits quickly, you'll get stopped out most likely. And then you have to get stopped out, right? You have to have your stop loss there because it simply also could go way lower. So again, I'm only trying to go long after it then gets back above and closes above. Hope that is helpful to you guys, maybe even more than reading whatever is being said in the earnings calls or whatever. But it was interesting to see, at least from my perspective, to see that, well, the numbers are pretty good, right? Especially for Visa and Intel seemed pretty decent. It's only really T-Mobile from these three that is underperforming on their EPS. Visa 1Q profit climbs amid higher payments volume. So again, if you just go based on what this is telling you, it's just telling you that everything is fine, right? And I also believe that everything will be fine, but I would like to see the price action confirm that. Visa said profit climbed in its fiscal first quarter, citing resilient consumer spending. That's not a surprise. The digital payments company on Thursday posted a net profit for the 3 months. So that is serious money, right? 4.89 billion compared with 4.18 billion. Again, you might think that is not a big difference, but they've done significantly more revenue than last year. I consider that a lot of money, 710 million. Even for a company this big with that large of a market cap, that remains a healthy sizable chunk of cash in the bank. Revenue climbed, beating analyst expectation. Yeah, all of this, it's nice to read it, right? I will give it a read, but it's not what I would use to essentially say that 1 minute candle right there, the close is a long entry. That is completely unrelated. Anyways, I actually am very interested to look at another one. So it was called Visa, but after a big sell-off, we're stagnating here. So I hope that at least the price action insight was helpful. Let's see, what else do we have? T-Mobile, KLA Corp. This is one that I don't know about. KLA Corp falling in after hours despite posting a double beat for the quarter. So they have a $6.16 earnings per share versus a 5.91 estimate. So that's good. And sales are 2.49 billion versus 2.46 billion estimate. Let's take a look at that ticker as well. I don't really know what this company does. You can take a look at it. Same real earnings pattern, right? As the January of 25th earnings pattern, big gap down. But again, the bigger perspective for me here in the stock market is that I'm looking to build long positions for higher. Let's see. Oh, this is a real significant nuke, I might say. Let's see on the 5 minute. What is that? 8% as well on the weekly time frame. But same thing here. I mean, that is a company that is in the bigger picture, right? All of these little down moves that seem little, they're big retracements, but eventually it goes higher. So my perspective on this, if this goes lower, is that I essentially want to look where do I want to be a buyer is really the question that I ask myself when I come to a chart. Let's see, 565 could be a level, so that is still 40. That's still $40 below where we're currently at. That would quite literally be the first area where I'm even remotely interested on this. I'm also just looking at this, right? So they have a double beat on their earnings and they're nuking down. So that is fine. I have my three levels here: 565.89, 503.48, and then 478.44. Those would be good candidates for a real significant bounce. Otherwise, here in the short term, we definitely broke market structure to the downside. So yes, this can run up from here. But over the next coming days and weeks, I'll look for lower on this, most likely. I would say most lower, and then getting back to the mid 500s there is most likely, unless you can really get above 650, which is not a gamble that I would be willing to take. So that is the first relevant level that I could give you on KLA. Now let's take a look at what they say here. So same thing here, surprise, surprise, beat on both. Now it's actually updated in TradingView. So it's a neat feature. If you go to your settings, whatever you have TradingView, you can go to events and place on. I like to place on dividends because I like to see when is the date that you essentially have to hold your shares to be eligible for your dividend, and then the earnings are relevant, right? So you can just click on that, and it essentially tells you that both of the things got beaten, but that regardless price action is coming down. So yeah, that's really the best I could do for all these stickers here for you guys, is to give you some levels, some ideas, and some perspective on this. So if this at some point in the future comes all the way back down, it's very likely that it then gives a way bigger move to the upside. Could come from here, could come from way lower. So whenever I'm going to be entering a position, right, I'm going to have a relatively tight stop loss to get a bigger move out of this. And if I'm wrong, that's fine. We're all wrong. Every trader is wrong a lot, right? I personally, I have people that I've seen and claim like have an 80-90% win rate. I can assure you that I don't. That I absolutely don't. Nor do I need it, right? So again, if that is what you're interested in, I would also say come join the premium section, and we have a ton of things to offer, right? Really, trading education, dividend series called Rags to Riches. We have Rest and Retire. We have option specialists. We have Eat in the Day Trader, the scalper at Market Open. Like, it's a very, very versatile and well-balanced team, I might say. Anyways, I'm going to slowly but surely check the Discord chat and then wind this down. I hope that the levels and the outlook and the perspective is helpful. And if you're not already, then I'll gladly welcome you guys in the premium section. But I see that probably most of you are already in there. Thanks for jumping in again, everybody. Bull, I see that you jumped in here as well to support. I appreciate it, man. Porter, we still got to do our catch up, man. Sailor Brown, awesome to see you. And Colonel Gert, my man, and Focus. Focus, you're the only person that I have not recognized the name of, but if you are also in the premium section, I absolutely apologize, and you should definitely ping me sometimes with a chart or a question. Good. This is what I have for the earnings. I'll be looking to upload the recording in the premium section for the premium members to rewatch it if they're interested in the levels and the outlook. And that's what I have for now. So I'm going to end this stream because in 5 minutes, I have another stream. I'll be right on with Duck for a charting session, and that will be in the premium section. So I'll see you guys later, and thanks for jumping in.